All right. Hello again to ELRC 7334 Career Counseling. And we're going to jump in here to Chapter 8 Career Counseling Strategies and Techniques. So, of course, here we want you to learn how to expand the limited view of career counseling. There's a very limited view of it, and we want you to have a much broader view. Understand how to design career counseling strategies. Fun stuff there. Identify a framework for career counseling. Understand how to conduct group career counseling. If you're a group person, fun in career counseling with groups. I really love it. It's something I just enjoy a lot. I have been doing for quite a while. Learn about professional designations within the field. I'm not going to go through those a lot. They were kind of already mentioned in chapter 1, but they are here in chapter 8. So as you were reading, you're going to come across again that master career counselor, people, all the way up to a PhD having that. And then you're going to see the career development facilitators and just different levels of education and training. There's a limited view of career counseling. We really want to expand that. So there is a lot around helping people find careers, but really career counseling is so much more than that. And it's become a predominant field at this point because so many people are unhappy at work. So we want to help them to feel more successful and more fulfilled. Uh, and most counselors today recognize that one's life and career are not separate and that mental health and work are interwoven. We spend a lot of time at work. Work becomes a large part of people's identity. Think about your own identity and how much you really connect with being a counselor, especially our third year students. I really can see them more like colleagues than like students because they really take on the mindset of, I am a counselor now, and they start to live it. So, people are living and they're out there doing their thing in their career, but it's also something that is not separate from mental health. And your career, if you have a negative turn in your career, can really affect your mental health. Uh, so, Cake Rep still identifies career as a core counseling competency. And you're going to see why, because as you start to get into working with people with depression and anxiety, these career issues are definitely going to come up. I mentioned earlier with trauma, people who have trauma often have a lot of dissatisfaction associated with career. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the behaviors that manifest in the workplace, feelings of being controlled, things like that. So we will actually be talking about that some in class. I am so sorry. This graphic turned out terrible. But it is a graphic that's really funny. It was on Instagram about can my mental health counselor help me with career counseling? And yes, that's what many mental health counselors do. And some become specialists in career counseling, but it is a very specialized designation. However, whether you decide that you want to work in career counseling or not, you're going to have to do some career interventions. All right. Kreit's view was that the need for career counseling is actually greater than the need for psychotherapy. I don't know that I want to go that far, but most people at some point need career development interventions. I don't know if they need full-blown career counseling, but they will need to have, and I kind of put an image here in the center, career development, learning to know themselves, exploring their options, becoming focused, taking action. But here's what we know, that if people receive career counseling, it can be therapeutic. And think about that, the installation of hope, that's a big part of it. If you think of Yalom's work, it should follow psychotherapy. If a person is in counseling, clinical mental health counseling, and they're being seen for a very specific issue, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say somebody's in clinical mental health counseling, learning to deal with personality disorder of some type. Then we don't want to start the career counseling and be having like some overlaps and some weird gaps in the treatment. We want them to get treatment first for the personality disorder, and then we're going to look at that in career counseling as well. Some people believe it's more effective than psychotherapy, but I'm just going to say you find what you choose to measure in terms of outcomes. I don't know that I believe that. Um, It is certainly much more robust in terms of our findings when it comes to certain outcome goals, where that's a little bit harder sometimes to measure immediately in counseling, especially depending on the age of a particular client and the kinds of issues they might be experiencing. So I don't want to go as far as to say career counseling is more effective than psychotherapy. I'm going to say it's probably pretty effective at what it measures. Okay. Um, Crite said it's more difficult than psychotherapy. Uh, my view is that I have to know both clinical mental health counseling and school counseling. And then on top of that is my career counseling. So I'm having to pull skills from lots of different places to do career counseling. But, you know, I would say it's not separate from any type of psychotherapy. We certainly use our clinical mental health counseling skills all the time. So you better know those, and you better know a lot of answers about clinical mental health, in addition to being able to work with clients who are having a mental health crisis and a career crisis. Brown and Brooks came up with this definition of career counseling as an interpersonal process designed to assist individuals with career development problems. That's not too shocking. Um, but designing these strategies really has to be responsive to what's happening also in the current context. Global unemployment, that is really, we're starting to see that even in the US. We've had a wonderful unemployment rate for years because we had a declining population. But now with robotization and with AI, we're going to see lots of jobs replaced. Corporate downsizing. Uh, Problems across the economy. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in class, but lots of economic issues that are from local to global. And then global competition. There's a lot of global competition for all, and I'm going to say all levels of industry, not just small companies. And then workerless factories, which I think is so interesting that they put this in context here. You're hearing a whole lot right now from current administration. Oh, we're going to bring business back to the U.S. We're going to bring manufacturing back. I would proffer that that doesn't really mean we're going to be bringing a lot of jobs back. And a lot of Americans don't want to work in factories. So this kind of creates a conundrum for us in a sense. All right, designing career counseling. So you want to help clients redefine the contract between employers and employees, right? So thinking about what's working for the employee, what isn't working, and helping their supervisors, helping people who work within the company through HR and other areas to recognize, especially when somebody has a disability, to recognize when something isn't working in the social contract. And the social contract is, I come to work, I produce a good, but I also expect to have like work-life balance. So kind of thinking about what is the social contract between an employee that you are doing counseling with and the employer that they're seeing every day is something you're going to have to help people learn to negotiate. Um, Limited childcare. Childcare has become really expensive, and a lot of childcare groups have closed. And so it's very, very hard for parents. Um, there's been an increase in the number of families with dual incomes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that families are feeling good about the economy. And an increase in the number of people working from home and the number of people who desire to work from home. I know I'm much more productive when I'm at home. At school, that's more social time for me, and really coordinating, collaborating with colleagues. Providing support. We want to facilitate hope, confidence, and purpose within clients and address hopelessness. I would say here a big one that I try to address is helplessness, because again, it goes back to that locus of control that I talked about in a previous video, wanting people to have a great internal locus of control and feel that they can affect their work circumstances through things like advocacy, through things like disability disclosures, through things like being able to move an upward mobility, through skilling and that kind of thing. Um, I put this picture here of this job fair because I think we're often missing how depressing and anxiety provoking it can be for people to be unemployed or to be uncertain about their employment. And I want to say that with sensitivity because I know a lot of you will be graduating in the next year and you're probably already feeling that, hey, I need to need to get a job and support myself. And it's stressful. But we're seeing more and more people who have graduated from college not be able to find careers or they're underemployed and lots of competition every time there's a job opening. So I'm telling people a lot right now, try not to leave the position you have in this moment, but until you have something else. I generally tell people not to quit until they have something else. We'll talk about that a lot in class. But even though that advice is kind of traditional and old school, normally I would have said, hey, you can be flexible because people are going to be hiring. That doesn't seem to be our current situation. All right. Emotional support. We have to give a lot of emotional support, particularly if you have clients. Those of you who know this already, some of you are fantastic with this. If you have a client that has had trauma, if they've had adverse childhood experiences, if we have somebody who has had lack of success continually, or they had a major fall. Okay, so like you have a person who was doing really well, very successful in their career, and an event happened to them. Maybe their employer closed down, or somebody else was promoted, or they were demoted, or they were outsized. So when people are downsizing, the employee gets outsized. Counselors can use this acronym PLEASE as an aid for expressing mattering. So protecting, listening, inquiring, acknowledging, supporting, exchanging. But I have a little, although I do feel protective of clients, I'm not sure about that P. So we want to listen, inquire, acknowledge, support, exchange ideas. But as far as protecting, while we want to protect the rights of clients and the ethical responsibilities that we have for them, um, we also want to encourage them to really be the owner of change in their lives. Informational support empowers clients to help themselves. So we're going to give people a lot of information. We're going to teach strategies for job searches and career decision making. And we're going to help provide materials that are relevant to clients' career concerns. Um, Now, when we get to those subjective assessments, one thing that we didn't cover in an earlier chapter that I really like that they covered here is who are subjective assessments good for, like those narrative therapies and those really career construction interview. And we did talk about people who might feel more marginalized, women, um, under-recognized groups. I would say Appalachians. I mean, like Appalachians, Native Americans, people who in any kind of indigenous population usually is going to find subjective interventions more helpful. But here they have listed some other people who are just indecisive in general about what direction to go. That's okay. I mean, indecisive, I think sometimes is good. Difficult cases are clients who have received but not profited from counseling, so they're a little bit skeptical. Mid-career changers, and I don't really like the term culturally diverse clients, but just clients who maybe for whatever reason identify or feel that they have been marginalized in some way. Strengths of subjective assessments help clients understand themselves at a deeper level. It's that qualitative, there's no right or wrong, and they're not expensive to use. They give a framework for career counseling, but I just want to say a couple of things about this. Yeah, the framework that's given in the book, getting started, helping clients deal with change, helping clients engage in self-assessment, helping clients learn more about the world of work, all of that's good. But I wanted you to kind of think about how it looks. So first starting out with those career conversations, then development planning, then assessing those skills and opportunities, and then reflecting on the client's interest. And so then you're deciding, you know, Do they need a mentor, like a career anchor? Do they need more modeling? Do they need skills assessment? But throughout that process, I would say this entire wheel is embedded in a clinical mental health model. I'm looking at a whole person who has a whole life, and a lot of that is not represented in this framework. So, learning about the client's life, learning about the struggles they've had so far, but also the successes, learning about the life roles that are important to them. All of that is going to be really, really critical. So, establishing that relationship. You all have been in counseling skills, you know this. Got to establish the relationship, gather information, define goals. And I always tell you, get that session on the rails. And I mean it. Same thing here with career counseling. It's not friendship, it's not hanging out, it's not chit chat. And when we get ready to terminate, we're going to use a lot of the same termination skills as clinical mental health counselors and school counselors. If a client prematurely wants to terminate, maybe they believe they achieved their goal, the career counseling experience has not met their expectations. A lot of times that is what happens because a client may come to you thinking you will tell them what they need to do. And that's not exactly what career counseling is. So if they feel lost in their career, they feel frustrated, they may be looking to you to come with a solution. And then sometimes people just are afraid of what's going to be uncovered or they lack commitment to counseling. Questions about termination, you want to ask yourself, did I review the content of what happened in counseling? Have I reviewed the process of what happened? Did I reemphasize the client's strengths that were evident? Did I evaluate what went well and what went poorly? So we need to do that during the termination phase. Did I explore things unsaid in counseling? Did I discuss feelings related to the end of the counseling relationship? And did I provide clear and direct structure for the client's next steps? So again, this is very similar to termination in clinical mental health counseling. I love group counseling. I have mentioned that. Group counseling offers a mode of service delivery that can be used instead of or adjunctive to individual counseling. Hansen and Kramer described group counseling as an intervention for 5 to 15 members, with 5 to 8 being optimal. Structured career counseling groups address a specific issue that is a common concern among the group members. So you're really going to find a group of people who are looking for the same type of core issue to be addressed. So maybe that is that they want to build leadership skills, social skills in the workplace. Maybe it's women who want to be better self-advocates in the workplace, and then addressing that in 3 to 7 sessions. Less structured career counseling groups are also available for intra and interpersonal concerns. And then you want to think about how long does the group really need to meet? Usually 7 to 8 weeks is the longest I go with group career counseling. Stages in group career counseling: opening stage. So forming stage, you might have learned it like that in group counseling, that initial stage. The investigation stage, this is where people are starting to really learn about each other, learn about what kinds of things they have going on. And this is where you're most likely to get that conflict among group members. Then the working stage, and then a decision and operational stage where people are ready to take action and they move into actioning what they're going to do to make a change. So why use career groups? Members learn new information about themselves and others. Members receive social and emotional support from other group members, and they can learn from their peers and share resources and ideas. Make sure that people are screened before you put them in group. Is this person appropriate? Um, I had somebody who recently told me about an incident involving a grief group. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting, because what happened is a person showed up to the grief group who wanted to sell people who were in the grief group um, basically packages for funerals and burial for when they died. So they just had a loved one die and they were in a grief group. And now here comes somebody wanting to sell a product within the group. Had they been screened, this likely would not have happened. So you want to screen your group members. You want open communication. You want them to share a common goal or goals, set norms that direct and guide their activities, and, keep working on this just like you would any other group. Career counseling professional designations and related service providers. Career service providers differ substantially in their training and areas of expertise. So you can have some that have all the way up to a doctoral degree and some that have a bachelor's degree. Now, they're not going to be career counselors, though. Career service providers are different than career counselors. You may have career coaches that have a master's degree, but it's not in counseling. So, there's going to be some variance there. Okay, that is the end of this chapter, and I will be back with chapter 9.